they're a Muslim or not. So this is what I call dualistic ethics. There is one set of behavior for the kafir. There's another set of behavior for the Muslim. Now, the part that's really tricky about this, Nazism had dualistic ethics, but it contained dualism only at the first level, in that the Jew was hated, period, end of destruction. But with Islam, I as a kafir can be treated like a brother if that is convenient to Islam. But on the other hand, I can also be deceived, lied, robbed. The Quran is endless in what can be done to the kafir: enslaved, raped, crucified, cut off their fingers, cut off their heads. This is what the Quran says can be done to me. Why? Have I done anything wrong? Well, it turns out that I have done one monstrous deed. I do not believe that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah.
Do you have a verse real quick to show us?
Any action taken against me, by the way, is a defensive action. 9/11 was a defensive act. Because when we read the Quran, the Sirah, the Hadith, we find out every time the Muslims attacked somebody, the Muslims were fighting defensively because the kafir had offended Allah and his prophet. And that offense was what made the strike by the Muslims a defensive act. So anyway, dualism in the ethical system, I divide all religions in the world and all ethical systems into two sets. The first set are those who adhere to the Golden Rule. I'm all for those people. Why? Because I want to be treated well. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be stolen. I don't like those things. Whereas then the other religions that are those that don't have the Golden Rule. Now, to my knowledge, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and Judaism all have a Golden Rule. Islam is unique in the absence of the Golden Rule. But the very word kafir could not exist in light of the Golden Rule. Because what does the word kafir mean? Nobody wants to be treated like a kafir. No one. So therefore, Islam, I maintain, has a dualistic ethical system. It's one set of rules for me and one set of rules for the other Muslims.
Okay, Kamal, can you provide us some verses to justify what Bill is saying from the Quran?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. The sound is going in and out a little bit. In the Holy Quran, it says, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. They have deceived, and Allah is the greatest deceiver. And also the Quran speak about Allah will not hold you accountable if you break your promises to your enemy. Islam is a progressive religion and made to defeat the enemies of Islam. So therefore, many times Islam come as a loving religion, as a kind religion, part of a nation. But sooner or later, it start dominating to take over and be the aggressor. How do we know this? This is what Muhammad did in Mecca, and then what he did in Medina. And then it progressed, and later on the Nasikh wal Mansukh, the abrogation came about. And Muhammad, Allah, the God of the Quran, changed his mind, which is, he didn't know the past from the future or the future from the past. And he said, I've given you something better from what I said before, and I'm replacing what I said before because I know what's best for you. So he's trying to really intrigue the people to say, listen to me. I'm the right person here. I am telling you what's best. But yet he added that every time he said those in the Holy Quran, he said, and now they accuse me that as I'm lying to them and I'm deceived them. He's always trying to verify himself, time and time again. When we look at this and we see how it's affecting the United States of America, like look at New Jersey, for example. In New Jersey, they had a case the other day where the husband, Muhammad al-Hujrash, he is from Pakistan. He's married to Rosine. Rosine, she's a French woman, and he had 2 children from her. He never asked her to be a Muslim, but then he comes back from Pakistan, and he forced her to become a Muslim. And if she will not, he will kill her. And then when she took him to court, and after he beat her up, and sent her to the hospital, and she was, nearly dead, what happened is the judge said to her, well, according to Sharia law, I could not, you married a Muslim, and the Muslim is in charge. So therefore, according to your law, I have to let you go. Go back to your husband. So therefore, this lady is suing the judge under the Article 6, which is we are the people. It's the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the first thing ever, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. But what happened is little by little, Islam comes here in a form of deception, like a socialism, like Nazisms, like fascism. All of them are the isms God, and what they have in common is to cheat, to lie, to destroy, and to separate between the masses, to exalt themselves above the culture that they are in. For example, Hitler. Look what he did. Look what Marxists did. In every culture, if the people didn't listen to them, they killed them. Islam is accountable for 270 million life, 660,000 terror acts this year alone. You go like, how's that possible? Then you look at what happened in Nashville just the other day. This man raped his wife. And as he's raping her, he was reading from the Quran. If your wife does not allow you to sleep with her, you have the full right to do anything you want. She took him to court. And when she took him to court, what did he do? The judge says you have no case. You're a Muslim. His Muslim Sharia law says he's right. It's the man's right. So now they are affecting our culture from within. Little by little, whether they're sleeping, praying on the street, or whatever they're doing, like Faisal Abdurraouf, for example. First, he's the most moderate. He said, we bring in the golden age back to America, and the golden age was, nobody knew that the golden age was how Egypt enslaved the Jews, and here is how Islam is going to enslaved the Christian and Jews in Cordoba, in Spain, in all those countries that they did. Islam excelled and exceeded in many different things because the Jews and the Christian brought science, brought medical, brought everything, and Islam cashed it out. And when the Muslims, when the Christians and Jews realized that we're being taxed, are women being raped daily because it's a Muslim right, according to Sharia law, to rape a non-Muslim woman or marry her if he needs to, because she is not Muslim. She's not considered, human yet. And so therefore what happened is they were losing life, losing money, so they start becoming Muslim. And what happened is the whole society start compromising. If we become Muslim in here, we don't have to pay taxation, we don't have to be raped, we don't have to be beaten. And what happened? The golden age fell apart. This is what Islam is good for. It fell apart. And then so what happened? But these people, because they compromised, their nation was compromised. People now, today, they are Muslims. Many of them, they used to be Christians or Jews at one time. And now it's happening all over. This is a progressive movement. It's taken place. And now you can see it, it's spoken from the White House, for example, or spoken, by Abdurraouf. And you see it, the general manager of the TV station, Bridges, which he's a moderate Muslim, who beheaded his wife. Why? Because he's fulfilling Sharia law. So these are, when the Muslims go to Mecca, when they go to Saudi Arabia, nobody tell them how to live their life. They live under Sharia law, and their Sharia law constitute everything to them. It's the law of Islam. So they live by that law, and nobody condemns them, for this. Knock your socks out. This is your land. Do whatever you need, but do not tell Israel how to live. Do not tell America, it has to become Muslim. Do not manipulate us into changing our culture to become just like you. Because after all, it is a manipulation form. Because that's what Allah said, وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. I am the greatest deceiver.
Yeah, see, Walid, some may claim, especially Muslims may claim, listen, Kamal, these are isolated incidents, these examples that you've given, they're not an accurate representation. You are not contextualizing the texts of the Quran. One of the main verses is of the Quran that many people use against Islam is chapter 9, verse 5, where it says to kill the idolaters. Are we contextualizing properly the text of Islamic sources, or are we taking them out of context? Let's get your thoughts on that, and then we'll turn it back to Bill.
That is a very, very good point. Here's why. When you argue with Muslims on the issue, they say, well, you are not correctly interpreting the Quran. You are basically don't speak Arabic, and you're not a scholar in Islam. Well, number one, not all Muslims have to be scholars in Islam to become Muslim in the first place. And number two, the best interpreter of the Quran is who? Well, the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad. when we look at the litany of interpretations by the Prophet of Islam in a tafsir, we find out about 100 different hadiths that explains all these verses, just as we are, which talks about jihad by the sword, jihad by expansion. You had asked for a verse that talks about, Islam, the Quran or Islam teaching that we are inferior, or to teach how to fight against the enemy. And it's very clear in Surah 9, verse 29. It says, fight those who do not believe in Allah and the last day. Fight. Now, how else can we interpret the term fight? If we look at the term fight, Muhammad says, أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يقولوا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. أمرت أن أقاتل. When you take the Arabic word أقاتل, to fight, it's really warfare. There is no other interpretation for قتل, يقتل, or قتال except to fight, to kill, to maim, and to murder. So it's very obvious also from the inception of Islam itself. Islam spread throughout the world through warfare. There is no other way. In fact, there is no scholar in the world that would deny that Islam did spread through warfare. Now, the question we ask is, are all the Muslims throughout history have misinterpreted the Quran? In other words, they accuse us of the very things that they themselves follow. Islam followed these rules, followed the Quran, and began warfare, began raziyah, ghazawat, jihad expedition, all the way even into Europe. Was that because the Muslims, Tariq ibn Ziyad and all these, Umar ibn al-Khattab invaded Jerusalem? Are all these Muslims have misquoted the Quran? So it is, it's very interesting, because Muslims will always do that. Whenever you come on a program, they will always call and say, well, you're not interpreting the Quran correctly. The main question I like to ask is, do the same Muslims who object on our interpretation of the Quran incorrectly, quote, quote, do they object about Osama bin Laden's misinterpretation of the Quran? And the answer is no. There is no activity. You don't find no activism anywhere to refute Osama bin Laden, or to address Osama bin Laden, or to go on Al Jazeera, Arab media, radio, anywhere in the Muslim world to say, hey, you guys are not interpreting the Quran correctly. They're only addressing the Western, Americans and Europeans and whatever, who is fighting for their country, and objecting on them only for defending their constitution.
Yeah. A lot of them, say that we have to take into account, quote unquote, historical circumstances, and that's why we have to contextualize it. But yeah, you make a very compelling point. Let's take our first call, and then we'll turn it back over to Bill. You're live on Jihad Exposed. Who do we have on air with us?
Hello?
Welcome.
Oh, I'm already on. It was fast.
Yes, you're on the air.
This is Peter from Germany. I just heard what Kamal said about those incidents with husbands beating up their women, and the American court doesn't do anything about it. We had the same thing here, but in Germany, we just found out that we are sort of paying jizya tax already. They found out that, I have to say, in Germany, every employee pays into the health care. So when somebody gets sick, they get the money out of that pot, everybody pays in. So we found out now that people from Turkey, and we have Muslims mostly from Turkey, that they have parents or children in Turkey, they get free health care paid by the German employees, by the German taxpayers and German workers. And we wrote to the government, and they say, well, this is because of cultural reason, and they have other different family bonds in Islam, and that's how they justified it. So we have to do now a petition about that. And I'm just saying, is if you don't do anything about this, or especially in America now, they will do the same thing there. So in Germany, we already paid for the health care of Turkish Muslim relatives from people who work in Germany.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that very important comment. Did you have a question for Walid, Kamal, or Bill this evening?
A comment for Walid, very short. I want to thank him for his work. I was always bothered by Islam for a lot of years, and I've been always a Christian, but I sort of never had proof. but his way of seeing things and how